Hello, listeners. Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to Canadian Gothic, a series by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to a series that we can all relate to, sadly. I'm talking about the listener-led encounters with creeps. In this episode, which is the 7th volume in this endless series, Madelayne, Klein, and I will again offer the show to nighttime listeners as a platform to share their encounters with the countless creeps out there. But this one's going to be special. Not only do Madelayne and I clearly define creep, I think we may also hear from one. So let's not waste any time and jump into another round of your creep encounters. Ms. Madelayne Klein, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm really good.
Your hair is dyed. It's darker than normal. You're like a little gothic.
That's what I'm going for.
Is it?
Kinda. No, I just haven't been. I've been dark in like 10 years, so I decided it was time for a change.
Okay. All that aside, what's new? What have you been watching? What have you been doing? How are your cats?
Oh, my cats are great. Actually, well, they're lovely and like I love them so much, but they keep waking me up, so I haven't really slept well the last like week, but whatever, that's fine.
A cute excuse.
They are so cute. Like, it's hard to be mad at them. The one wakes me up in the middle of the night just to pet her. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever you want, yeah. So no, other than that, I'm not really watching anything. Seinfeld, as always, my comfort show. But yeah. I
don't think I've been up to much. I've been in Prince Edward Island for a few days on vacation. While there, I managed to miss unprecedented flooding and rains in Nova Scotia. I came home to like complete chaos here. Luckily, there was no damage to my house, but the entire like city looks different because so much water fell over the couple days that I was gone, and everything is, the city's overwhelmed by like plows and diggers and excavators, fixing everything, but it's kind of wild.
I can't believe the like polar opposite of weather you guys are getting. First, Nova Scotia was on fire, and now it's floating away. So
yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, but like I said,
I don't know what to make of it.
Climate change, baby.
Yeah, but we're not here tonight to talk about climate change. We're here for the next episode in a series that I always look forward to doing with you, which is our Encounters with Creeps, which is largely fueled by stories from our listeners. And I'll tell you tonight, maybe my favorite one yet. You're going to dig this.
I don't like saying that I love these episodes because I shouldn't, but I really do.
I know, me too. I feel this. It's about my guilty pleasure is like this episode of my own podcast. Before we get into our listener contributed stories, however, we generally will choose one story in the news that involves a creep. And I got a good one tonight. I don't know if it's necessarily a creep per se, but I do consider this person a creep. It's more so a story of, I don't like the curse, but like the whole like fuck around and find out, that whole thing. Yep. I think maybe it's like a creep who f***ed around and found out. That's, I guess, how I will put this. And this is one that sort of comes from your neck of the woods. This involves the Brady Road blockade, which is, this relates to Jeremy Skibecki. You did an episode series, or one episode about him. He's an alleged serial killer who is suspected in the murder of 4 Indigenous women in Manitoba, the Winnipeg area of Manitoba. One of the women that he killed was found in a landfill. The other 3, one of them is unidentified. 2 they know, Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron, are thought to be in the same landfill. But there's this whole debate about whether or not the Manitoba government will do a dig or excavate this landfill to try to find the bodies of these 2 Indigenous women. Eventually, the government in Manitoba said, it's too expensive and it's too dangerous. We're not going to do the dig. We're not going to excavate. We're not going to try to find their bodies. Of course, that has led to outrage. And since July 6th, the road that leads to the landfill has been blocked by First Nations groups and advocates supporting them, making it so that trucks can't, get to the area of the landfill. So there's been a lot of frustration. A man named Kyle Kochko, he's a Winnipeg man, he took his frustrations out on the protesters. I guess you could say he took matters into his own hands. More than that, though, I can just say he around a bit. He drove to the blockade with a truck full of like lawn debris and it looks like he was did landscaping. Had just the back of his truck was just full of like mulch and lawn waste. He can't get into the landfill because of the blockade. So what he did was he turned his truck around and unloaded the back of his truck with a shovel right onto a memorial of the victims. So it's like paintings on the road of Miss MMIWG, and there was red dresses painted. He's unloading the mulch as a bunch of protesters are filming him and screaming at him, and he's arguing with them, saying awful things like, you want the Manitoba government to pay for this. You got to protect your own people or look after your own people. You all should be paying for this. He eventually drives off. But the find out part of this story is the protesters learned who he was and where he lived. So I'm going to play a little news clip and you can hear how that goes.
Oh, God.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We start with that large protest outside a home in Winnipeg last night that's ignited a firestorm on social media and left one man facing charges. Police say roughly 45 people showed up outside the home of a man caught on video dumping dirt on a red dress memorial at the blockade at the Brady Road landfill. Now, with more on last night's protest and reaction to a spur of the moment apology, we're joined by Tegan Rasha. Tegan, what can you tell us?
Lisa, the man, Kyle Kochko, who lives at the house, went to the Brady Road landfill to dump the dirt, but the blockade prevented that. He got into a yelling match with protesters and proceeded to dump dirt on a red dress mural because he couldn't get into the facility. Fast forward to Wednesday night when a large group of blockade supporters showed up at his house. Kochko eventually came outside, addressing the crowd with an apology. Have a listen to his comments.
I apologize for my actions that day. I was unaware that I had other places that I could dump.
Kochko was interrupted several times, and after a few attempts, he was all but drowned out by the angry mob. His apology didn't go over well with protesters, some of whom felt it was insincere.
Tegan, that video really shows just how tense that situation got. Our Global News crews caught up with Kochko today. What did he have to say?
Lisa, Global News went back to Kochko's house. He has started cleaning up the mess from Wednesday, and he spoke about the incident. He defends his actions at the landfill and his apology.
Expect sort of this reaction to take place?
I expected that there was going to be some consequences, but I wanted to stand by my words because I believe I said something that I felt was true. I don't disagree with what I said still. I still, as I said, I take care of my own people. I take care of my sister and my mother.
Kochko says police were the ones who told him the protest would happen at his house. He didn't know until he was almost home from work. He says he doesn't feel the need for police to check in on him moving forward unless there's another protest.
What's your initial thoughts on that whole situation, Madelayne?
Faces that match the opinion is the first thing that comes to mind.
Faces that match the opinion. I like it. Oh, man. I don't know if he's a creep or is that like an encounter with an idiot?
An idiot.
Okay.
He just abysmal behavior.
Yeah.
And so he really wasn't sorry. He was sorry that his actions had consequences.
Yeah.
And then he doubles down and is like, yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm actually not.
Yeah, I
stand by what I said.
Yeah, and I stand by what I dumped on their mural to the missing and murdered women.
And he says, like, I take care of my mother and brother or mother and sister, whatever. If he bothered to do any research at all, Camp Morgan is like led by Morgan, who was a victim of Skibicki's daughter. Her name's Cambria. She's the one leading all of this.
Oh my God, he's just beyond an idiot.
Exactly. He has no clue at all.
Oh,
No idea.
God.
Like, and just imagine thinking you can act like that and get away unscathed. No
and go on the news and
repercussions.
talk about it. Is it a story of frigged around and found out though?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You love
absolutely.
to see it.
Yeah,
I'm so glad they did that.
I
That
should
group
have said,
of people.
people often say when we do the Creep Encounters episodes that we should have like something that's kind of like a palate cleanser at the end. I should have saved that for the end. Sorry, we're going to start off on the positive, but it's going to get dark really fast because we have a loaded card of Creep Encounters, and we have one voice memo that I never thought we'd get that I can't wait to share with you. I don't want to hype it up too much, but I do think we got something special that's going to turn our world inside out here on Encounters with Creeps, Part 7. Do you want to hear about a touchy teacher, a Tex-Mex restaurant, or someone in Scotland's hair?
Ooh. Let's start out strong with the teacher.
Okay. This is Norm from Vegas. He's a regular listener and caller. He has a story of a touchy teacher in Las Vegas, I suppose. Here it is.
Hi, Jordan and Madelayne. This is Norm from Vegas. I love your new Canadian Gothic series and wanted to contribute my story about a female creep. About 30 years ago, during the summer between my undergraduate and law school studies, I decided it would be a good idea to take a speed reading class at the local community college. Everything was fine for a couple weeks, but then during one of our tests, the instructor, who was a 50-something, not very attractive woman, came up behind me and started massaging my shoulders. She did this for probably 30 seconds to a minute, which was very disturbing. The other more disturbing thing was that she had strangely strong hands. That was the last class I attended, as I wasn't taking the course for credit, and it didn't really matter to me. But I just wanted to bring up the story because I think there's a difference for men versus women dealing with creeps. For men, if women are attractive and they're being creepy, a lot of times, honestly, it's okay, it's welcome. If they're not attractive, it is creepy. But for women, these sort of things are much more disturbing because there could be a physical safety issue. I mean, with this lady that gave me the massage, even though she had strong hands, I'm pretty sure I could take her, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But for women, there's that stalker physical safety issue. And also, like this lady, where they're in a position of power, what if it had mattered? That I finished that class, then what would I have done? Or, to this point, if a woman were in that situation, it'd be much more difficult. So that's my story. Thanks for the show.
Huh, a speed reading class. Interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. It would be a good skill to be really fast with, though. I'd love to read more, but I'm so slow. It takes me forever to read a book.
My brother's a speed reader.
I'm sure you've been in a position, we've talked about this before, people passing by you and they kind of like, one hand on your lower back, like just going to scoop by you there, Madelayne.
Yeah.
What about a teacher kind of like reaching down and like kind of giving you a squeeze on the shoulder? Like that's not that hard of a problem. Just need to...
so weird. And Norm does make many valid points, but it shouldn't matter gender to gender.
Mm-hmm.
Like consent is everything, and yeah, men should be just as validated in if they're creeped out or whatever,
Yeah. He made a point as well about like if the creep, are they still a creep if they're attractive? I think of James Bond. James Bond does a lot of very misogynistic, creepy things to women, but he's also played by this cool guy who's well dressed and drinking, a fancy drink, and he seems to get away with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all how the person getting creeped on perceives it and how they take it. I think they would be a lot more open to it if the person is attractive.
I guess there's a little moment too when someone's coming and they approach you in some way. If you're not into it, you need to be able to read that and be like, okay, I'm not going to rub his back or her back.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, but
yeah, there's a fine line.
yeah,
There's a
it is.
fine line between flirting and creepy.
It is delicate. That line is often crossed in restaurants. You have experience serving. We've heard from many listeners of the show who have had creep encounters in restaurants all across the world. Let's hear about Eva's. Eva worked at, I think she calls it a Tex-Mex restaurant, and she encountered a creep there. Listen to this.
Hi, my name is Emma. I've called in before, I guess, for the Keep Canada Weird series, and then I started listening to you and Madelayne's encounters with creeps, and I as well have an encounter with I have many, but the one I'm going to share is when I was 16 years old, working at a Tex-Mex restaurant, which is, it's very similar to a Chipotle, but it's a local, like, 1 to 2 stores, like mom and pop restaurant, and I worked there for a majority of my teenage years. I'm in a different field now, thankfully, because there was a lot of weirdos that came in, and a lot of drunk people, because I love a drunk burrito, and I don't blame people for also liking a drunk burrito. So this one time while I was working at the register, I was the only one up there because during the nighttime, people will go do closing stuff and we'll have one person on the line to make food and check them out. And this guy came in and immediately started flirting with me, saying like how beautiful I am, like what I'm doing after work, stuff like that. And 16-year-old me was just trying to be nice and was like, oh, like, I'm going home, like, I'm not really doing anything, you know. As Madelayne put it, young women have this weird thing where you have to be nice to everybody because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. As a 20-year-old now, I don't give a... Oh, can I swear? I don't give a fuck. So I'm sitting there talking to him, and as he checks out, he asks for his receipt and a pen, and then writes his number down, and as he's leaving, he's saying, yeah, text me so you and me can have a threesome with my girlfriend. I don't think this man knew I was 16 years old, but I have a fairly young face even as a 20-year-old. I get carded at the bar all the time, sort of thing. So, I have many more, but I feel like that's a good one. Being asked to join a threesome with a random man who was getting a disgustingly gross burrito, by the way. I was judging it very hard as I was making it. Anyways, have a great day, you guys.
That's coming on strong. Here's my number. We should call me if you want to have a threesome.
Well, that went into a direction I didn't think it was going in.
Nothing surprises me. I was when someone sends a message into this series that involves like a note being passed, I'm just like, oh my god, should I hit pause? What's going to happen? The note had his number, but it was followed up with, if you want to have a threesome with my girlfriend and I.
Monogamy isn't for everyone, I suppose.
Do you think his girlfriend knew he was going around doing this with 16-year-olds?
Do you think his girlfriend exists?
Oh, good question. I don't know. Yeah, I guess if she had have been like, yes, he would have had to go to other restaurants, being like, if you want to, here's my name. Damn it.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I don't know. Weird. Mm-hmm. But this situation just jogged a memory of mine.
Oh, here we go.
And it kind of goes back to the whole good looking thing.
Okay.
So,
oh my. And then we got, go ahead.
Well, and it's like, okay. I used to work at a bar and I was quite young. I was too young to be working there, but I worked coat check. So I wasn't technically in the bar.
Okay.
I was working with one of my really good friends who I'm still really good friends with. She actually lives over in Nova Scotia now.
You should visit her.
I should. She lives in Shelburne.
Okay, that's a shitty area, but you should still come down.
Anyway, so we were working one night. This was, so I was like 17. So it was 2010. And like, this is just so ridiculous. So there was this guy at the bar that had come in, and her and I both were like, oh man, this guy is super hot, right? Like all night, whenever we saw him, we were like, oh my God, like he's super hot. So whatever, end of the night, we were in my car. I was driving home. And as we were driving through the parking lot out or like to go home, this guy gets into the back seat of my car shirtless, just like out of nowhere. And he gets in and he's like, hey guys. We're like, hi. And he leans up and he looks at us and goes, you guys want to have a threesome? And me and my friend just looked at each other and we were like, what? So we thought it was hilarious. We thought it was super funny. And like the way we tell it now is we're like, he was so hot we considered it.
So what happened? I'm at the edge of my seat here.
I think we drove him to the next bar or something. It was like a strip of bars.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure we drove him just a teeny tiny distance and he got out. But the point of this is, if he hadn't had been so good looking, I probably wouldn't be laughing right now.
No, absolutely not. You would have called the police like this.
It would have been like, get the out of my car.
Like a slightly different like tone in your voice would make this like a creepy story. But no, it's funny and it's something we almost considered it.
We almost, and that too was a joke. We didn't.
Of course, but Norm was 100% correct.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. Norm is always right.
Now, what about this? What jogged my memory was, or what reminded me of something that happened in my youth. Eva says he had this gross burrito and I was kind of judging him. It reminds me, I worked at McDonald's when I was a teenager in Cape Breton, and I often worked like the night shift when the freaks would come in. And I remember one night, and this man came in, and it was a man and a woman. The man was like, I'm guessing like 60s, very overweight he just looked like he smelled bad. He was greasy and gross. And he had like a really tight worn shirt that was dirty. And I could kind of see like his body through his shirt because the shirt was so worn and tight, that kind of thing. And he came up to the counter and he was to order, and he was with a woman who was much younger than him. She was probably like 20. He was like 60. And she was dressed like very scantily dressed. And she didn't seem to know much English. And it just seemed like a really weird dynamic between these two. And he brought her, they came up to the cash and I was like, hi, welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order? And he said, well, my girlfriend. And she's like, oh, and he's like, my girlfriend loves hamburgers, but I want to make sure you put extra pickles, as many pickles as you can get on them and as much mustard as you can get on them. And I was like, okay. And like, he ended up ordering, I think he ordered 6 of them. And she just kind of stood there like laughing as he had his arm around her. I brought out the burgers and then they sat down, and I just couldn't help but like just looking out in the restaurant at them as he was just sitting there watching her eat like these burgers with tons of pickles and mustard. And it's just, ever since then, I don't like mustard or pickles.
That's like it has to be like an escort situation, no?
That's what I was thinking for sure. You
will not convince me differently.
Yeah, it seems like he hired an escort to go to McDonald's for pickles.
Someone's got a pickles and mustard king. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
But to each their own, I guess.
Want to go on vacation to Scotland?
I do.
A listener named Jennifer called in, and she has a story that is about her hair. Listen to this.
Hi, Jordan. This is Jennifer from Northeast Scotland. I'm phoning with a creep story, one of many that I have, but this one happened about 25 years ago when I was a student in Edinburgh. 2 or 3 of us decided to go check out a new exhibition at the National Museum of Scotland. And I think it might have been about rainforests. They'd created a new part of the museum where the exhibition had its own sort of biodome type area. So it was quite dark with lowered ceilings and lots of, visual interpretations going on that you could stop and watch. So at the time, this is like the 90s, I had really long hair. I was into grunge, and my hair was down to about my hips, I would say. And it was kind of golden brown. So anyway, three of us stopped to have a look at one graphic display. We were reading it. We'd been there for, I guess, a couple of minutes, and yeah, I suddenly felt someone stroking my hair, and I turned round. There was a guy there, right behind me. I mean, right behind me, who'd been stroking my hair. So he turned round and made a sharp exit, and I just sort of shocked said, "Oh my God, that guy!" and yeah, there wasn't much to do. We alerted security. The guy had a quick walk around, couldn't see him, but it was just really, really creepy. And the worst thing was we had been standing at that display for a few minutes, so yeah, it was. I'm not sure how long he was behind me. He was really quiet. Obviously, I didn't hear him. I didn't sense him until he actually touched me. But it was just such a horrible, creepy feeling. So yeah, there you go. 25 years ago, I still remember it. Yeah, what a creepy thing to do. Thanks, Jordan. Love the show. Bye.
Yeah, that's like
Ugh.
sort of like Hannibal Lecter kind of creepy. Where
Yeah.
it seems very deliberate because the way she describes it is once she turns around and he realizes he's caught, he just ducks out of there. And to do it in a
Ugh.
museum, it's like everything's so quiet and everyone's just standing around to just be like, I'm just gonna touch your hair. Like
Why would anyone think it's okay to touch anybody ever without, consent, permission, whatever, strangers especially? It's like it's like the pregnant woman thing. People just walk up to pregnant women and touch their belly. And I'm like, no, you don't do that. You don't touch anyone without asking. Like, ugh.
But hair from behind, like here's
Yeah,
my
that's
thing
even
is
creepier.
like I gave that example and we mentioned this a lot in this series is like the whole like hand on the lower back, like I'm just gonna scoop by you there, or touching your shoulders and maybe passing it off as like I'm just like I'm just comfortable around you, so I will touch your shoulder. But touching someone's hair from behind, that is this like weird, like obsessive weirdo creep thing. Like I love her hair. I guarantee he pulled a couple pieces out and he got home like I have it.
I was just gonna say this guy definitely has like specimens, trophies that he's kept over the years
Of different
in like little
women's
jars.
Scottish women's hair.
Yeah.
And yeah, he has a
Ugh.
little jar that says like Jennifer, graphic display from Rainforest Woman.
Yeah, exactly.
And he opens it and he like smells it.
With the date.
Yeah, the date he collected the sample. Like what a creep. That's a creep would do that.
Oh, that's like textbook weirdo.
Yeah, and you say let's hit on Norm's point again. This whole thing about if they're attractive, maybe they're not a creep. I feel like if he was attractive, that would still be weird.
Absolutely, it would be like, what's your problem?
Like a American Psycho kind of guy. Like that's weird.
Like someone might be into it, but it is not me.
Yeah,
Get the hell away from me.
get out of here. We should comment on her accent. A Scottish accent is so cool. But I was very glad that the story involved like a town called Edinburgh. Like it was like this typical like Scottish sounding place. We're in Edinburgh.
It was so perfect.
Yeah.
Her accent. Yeah.
It's a shame that the content was so ugly.
Right. I wanted to crawl out of my skin for her.
But I would like to hear Jennifer just describe like gardening or cooking or something like with that accent. I would listen to that.
Like if I ever needed someone to narrate my life, she'd be a running candidate.
Yeah, she'd be up there. Let's revisit a past story. This is one I'm very excited to get into. So right now we're doing Creep Encounters Part 7. The last time we did this, Creep Encounters Part 6, we had a story that I described as Lisa's amazing story that got cut off.
Yes. I remember it fondly.
This was a voice memo that had some kind of technical error that led to the story being kind of cut off in the middle, leaving us on an epic cliffhanger. We heard from Lisa, and she's ready to tell the rest of the story. But before we hear the rest of the story, will you remind us what happened?
Yes. So back in the late 80s, Lisa had gone to some sort of 1 hour photo to get photos developed. while they were being developed, she was flipping through magazines, and an older gentleman came up to her with like a hole in his throat where like a trach would be. So he couldn't talk, so he was passing her notes. That's how he communicated. And I believe the first couple were just, or like one maybe, they were fairly harmless. They were just like, hi, how are you, or something. But then that's where we got cut off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
and we didn't know how that went.
Yeah, I think she had said like the one note was like hi, and then he gave it another note, and she even set it up with like, and that's when, and then it's like clip, and that's when it ends. So here is, and we called out to her. I said, Lisa, if you're listening, I need to hear the rest of this story, because it had all the trappings of this like creepy scene with the tracheotomy and all this stuff. I will tell you right now, the rest of the story delivers. This is a creepy friggin' story. Listen to this.
Oh, hi, Jordan. This is Lisa reaching out. I have recently submitted a story on encounters with creeps, and it got cut off. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened, but I wanted to finish the end of the story. I was in the store when I was a teenager looking at magazines. This old man who had like a tracheotomy and couldn't speak and was breathing through a hole in his neck had approached me and was writing me notes on 3x5 cards. And he had said hi, and I was not sure what he wanted. I assumed maybe he thought, I worked in the store, or maybe he had a legitimate, question or something, needed help. So I was trying not to let on that he was creeping me out, and that I was trying to be nice. So he hands me this second 3x5 card, and it says, "You're prettier than any of the girls in these magazines." And I wasn't expecting that, and I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know why he would. I didn't know what to say exactly. And before I could do or say anything, he took me by surprise and leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. And so I felt his scraggly beard on my face and his lips on my face. And worst of all, I felt him breathe on me through the hole in his neck. And I got like full on heebie-jeebies. I felt really creeped out. And I just said something like, "I have to go." And I took off and got out of that aisle, and I went over to the photo lab. My photos were just about ready, so I waited there for a few minutes, kept looking around over my shoulder. I felt a little safer because there were people around that area. And I saw him come out of an aisle. He looked really agitated and unhappy, and he was looking around. I don't know if he was looking for me or what, but he went back down another aisle, didn't see me, and I didn't see him again. I was luckily able to get my photos, leave the store, and not run into him again. But that creepy feeling stayed with me for a while. So anyway, that's the end of the story. Sorry it got broken into two pieces like this. But anyway, thanks for including it in the show. Take care.
That was worse than I could have ever imagined.
I'm speechless. Oh, what's the worst part?
Just, it's bad enough he leaned in and kissed her at all. Mm-hmm. But the fact that she like felt everything about his being.
Yeah, like his whole face.
Worse. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she felt like the beer, but
his. That is just like the weirdest. I can only imagine the man smelled like cigarettes as well. This is what I'm picturing.
Naturally, yeah. Oh man, that is that is a hellish story.
Well, we were speculating last time what could have happened.
Mm-hmm. I
would have never guessed that. No.
Ugh. Oh man, I appreciate Lisa sending in that story because I wanted to know the rest. But I appreciate her reliving that twice for us. It turns out, actually, Lisa has quite a few stories because we're going to hear from her again later in this episode. We'll come back to that. Let's get into Jason's funeral home story.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is interesting. We don't get a lot of stories set in funeral homes. I think this is the first.
For good reason.
This comes from Jason.
Hey, Jordan and Madelayne. Just wanted to send a story for your Encounters with Creeps episodes. So I work for a communications company in Canada here, and sometimes I get working in pretty small towns here. But there's a weird thing that happens during federal elections. So what happens is all the candidates will set up call centers. In the bigger cities, they usually just rent out a storefront in a strip mall and put in 30 telephones, and then you get the annoying calls from your local fringe candidates. But this one was kind of weird. So it had the candidate's name on my work order, and it was for 6 telephone lines to be installed. But the weird part is it was being installed into a funeral home. So I went to the funeral home and called the contact number on the work order. And he came down to the back door of the funeral home, which entered into the basement, and let me in. So when I went in, the first room that you walk into is where they wanted the call center, right? And it's a fairly straightforward thing. I was just supposed to install 6 telephone lines there. But the problem is that was at the back of the building. The telephone lines would have to come from the front of the building. And so I told him I have to get to the front of the building, and he said, okay, well, I just have to cover up something, and there's a room in between the utility room and this room, and it's got human remains in it. So I'm just going to cover them up so that you can work and whatever. So I wait there for a bit, and he's like, okay, everybody's covered, right? Like, come on through. So he takes me through this workroom where he prepares people for their funeral. So he goes upstairs into the office part, and I was bringing this line from the front corner of the funeral parlor to the back corner, but something doesn't line up. This, the room where the call center is supposed to be, and the utility room, and the workroom in between it. The workroom seems too small, right? And I can't run a line through there anyways because it's all finished. And so I'm looking for another path to get from one room through another and another. And I couldn't figure it out because it almost seemed like there's a big section missing from it. So there's a cabinet there, and I go to just kind of look behind it, and it turns out that it's a big wooden cabinet and it's on casters. So I give it a push, and behind it there's a door. So I open up the door, right, turn on the light, and was the part that shocked me. In the corner, there's a mannequin that's all dressed up in a Nazi uniform. There's swastika flags all over the walls. There's, like the golden eagles, like it looked like an Indiana Jones movie. I was shocked at this. I've never seen such a collection in my life. So I just get the lines, put them through that room into the front call center. Finished up my work as quick as I could, and then closed everything up again. Went up and got the gentleman, explained to him what I did, showed him where the phone jacks were and where he could set up his call center, and got the hell out of there. So so I don't know who the creep is. It could be this guy who has all this Nazi memorabilia who wants to have a call center in the basement of the funeral home. It could be the politician who wants to set up a call center in the basement of a funeral home. Or it could be the people who work in a funeral home call center. But you guys decide.
I don't know where to go with that one.
What a find. That's like out of a movie.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but why would it be there? I know it's not illegal. Like some people are, collectors of World War II stuff, and maybe like the Nazi memorabilia comes with that, but I just find I'm very like put off whenever I see a swastika, even if it's in the context of World War II. If I was
Yeah.
installing stuff at a funeral home basement alone, and I know there's bodies in the room next door, and I find this kind of hidden compartment, turn on the lights, and there's a bunch of Nazi stuff, I don't know what I'd do. I don't think I'd be able to just continue with my work.
Well, the fact it's hidden
Hmm.
is, kind of tells you is like a red flag, I guess.
I guess. And why would it be hidden there? Like, let's just assume it's the owner of the funeral home's collection of
Gotta
Nazi
be.
stuff. Why would he just like, why wouldn't that be on display in his home or something? Like to put it in the basement near where bodies are embalmed.
Because I don't care how much of a World War II buff you are, you shouldn't be collecting stuff like that, in my opinion. I don't think it should be sold at thrift shops or whatever. It's just a little weird. And
Mm.
like especially because the only person worse than someone with hidden Nazi memorabilia is one that is proud of it
Hmm.
and shows it off.
That's a good point.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
weird story. That's like that's a unique kind of creep thing, or a unique
Definitely.
kind of creep story. Jason came through the funeral home. I was fascinated once I saw like in the subject line of the email that there was going to be a funeral home. Like, oh, this is going to be good.
You're like,
I
yep.
did not see it going in that direction. When it gets to the when he
No.
gets to the point in the story and he turns on the light, you would have had no idea that that's where this was going.
Well, and just the hidden secret passageway
Hmm.
is where it sucks me in. I'm
Hmm.
just like, oh my God. Imagine. That's like my dream is to find like a secret passage somewhere. And then I don't want to find Nazi memorabilia on
Yeah,
their side, but
your dream is to find one. Your luck is you find it and it's just a bunch of Nazi stuff.
right? Yeah, no.
No thanks.
No thanks.
Let's get into a two-parter here. This is from a listener named Krista. Part 1. Krista's story about a pool. You ready for this?
I am so ready.
Here we go.
Hi, Madelayne and Jordan. It's Krista calling from Regina. Lane, you know who I am.
I know this voice.
Couple of creep stories. So one that comes to mind, sadly, this is almost a half a century ago. Anyways, I was at a public swimming pool with my older brother and sister, and they left me in the shallow end to go in the deep end. And this man, who I thought had a kid with him, noticed that I had goggles. And he goes, "Hey, I have goggles. Do you want to have an underwater contest?" So I was like, "Sure." And so put my goggles on and we count down, pop under the water. And I don't know if it was intentional or if this was before the day of the sort of net underwear in men's swim trunks. In any event, this guy's cash and prizes was floating around and I got a full view. I was about 6 or 7, I would say, popped out of the water, was like totally creeped out and took off. So yeah, there was that.
I've never heard cash and prizes.
Me neither. That took me off guard.
Yeah, you said when I started, I know this voice. They seem to know you. They called you Lane. I've never heard you referred to as Lane.
Yeah, that's what I went by for a good majority of my life. That's my dad's girlfriend.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know that when she was a kid, some creep showed his cash and prizes, maybe accidentally, to her?
Actually, I did know the gist of this story
Oh,
just
really?
from, I think last week. She texted me and she said she was listening to Creeps 6.
Okay.
And then she told me some of her own creep stories. And I was gonna say, like, leave us a voice message, but I guess she can read my mind because she did.
She beat you to it. Do you think this was accidental?
I don't know. I recall her saying at the beginning, like, mind you, she was like 6 or 7, so
Yeah.
it's hard to gauge people. But like, she wasn't immediately weirded out by this man. But you never know. People are so creepy.
Having
So, I don't know.
like an underwater goggle contest or whatever with like the 6-year-old that's unknown to you in a pool. That's a bit of a
Yeah.
red flag. And I feel like as a man, when I wear shorts, I'm aware of like where everything is.
Well, I was gonna
Maybe,
say, can you shed some light on the history of men's bathing suits
well,
for us?
I don't
You
know.
were you were alive half a century ago, no?
No, that's what a century's 100 years. No, I wasn't alive back then. Throughout
I
my
know, I was
life,
calling you old.
throughout my entire life, men's shorts have had like this second kind of layer within them that
Yes.
I never really understood the point of that layer. Now I think I do. It's to keep your cash and
We've
prizes.
we understand now.
We get it now. Maybe it's stories like this that led to the implementation of that second layer of protection.
Maybe.
And this is not a creep. I'm hoping it's not a creep. It's just a huge misunderstanding that can be, with blame that can be squarely placed in the laps of the manufacturers of swimsuits circa 1960.
I hope so.
Okay.
But then again, if you're an older man, do not talk to children. Just leave them alone.
Yeah. Especially
at a swimming pool.
In a pool, for God's sakes. It's one thing if
Leave
you're,
him be.
you're out in the field and everyone's walking their dogs and you say, nice dog, that's fine.
Right.
But if you're in a pool, you need to,
Time and place.
you need to have a large distance between each other in a pool. But you know what? Here's the thing, is like Krista may have had this situation in the pool. Maybe it was accidental. Maybe it wasn't. It isn't only people in pools that got a little too weird with her. It also happened to her with movers. She sent 2 voice memos. Listen to this one. You're going to learn something about your dad's girlfriend right now.
Hey, Madelayne and Jordan, it's Krista again from Regina. So another story, about 20 years ago, I had a bad car accident and I was just about to move. So the automobile insurance here in Saskatchewan agreed to pay for my move. The movers told me that I didn't need to unpack the dressers, that they would just take the drawers out, put the dresser in the moving truck, and then put the drawers back in. So fast forward, end of the day, go back to my house that I'm moving out of, go into my bedroom, and some of my underwear are in the middle of my bedroom. And I asked, like, what the heck happened? Well, the only drawers that they emptied were my underwear and bra drawers. So these yucky movers touched all of my undergarments. Not sure what else they did to them. Not sure if they took some, but major violation. And needless to say, they did not get a good review. Thanks so much, guys. I love listening to you and all of your listeners. Fascinating topics, and you are just a delight to listen to.
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty big coincidence that it was the underwear and bras that didn't get packed back up.
It's a little, that's a big coincidence. Why?
Well, I did an episode recently with Ava James, who was a teacher's assistant who lost her job as a result of her OnlyFans work. She had told me that she sells an incredible amount of underwear to people who follow her. They just pay and she mails them underwear. That's a common thing.
Good for her.
But I think
that'd be wicked money.
Yeah, but I think well, she told me she sells so many that she'll go on Amazon or to Costco and buy like bulk so she can like send them out. So that's but I'm only saying that because not to plug, not as an advertisement for her underwear, but just to show that there are a lot of people who that's their thing. They want that. So if you have a creepy mover who's really into, or if you're this creep who's really into women's underwear and bras and stuff, being a mover may give you like a advantageous kind of position. Yeah.
Well, and like it would take me so long to notice if that happened to me because I have like 100 pairs of underwear. So you'd never know if there's a bunch of them.
Well, that was what that creepy Russell Williams, or is it Russell Williams, who is the military colonel or the Navy or something.
That's right.
Yeah, his thing was women's underwear. So he was breaking into homes and Colonel Russell Williams. He was stealing underwear from women, but he would undress at homes he broke into and put on women's underwear and take pictures of himself, put it all back and go home and have the photos of himself, this big military man wearing women's underwear. So
I think it's more common than we think, because like I know my favorite band is all women, the Beaches, and one day on their story on Instagram it was like, yeah, so someone bought my underwear last night. And then another, just a girl from like an old reality show I used to watch, she has her own podcast, and she was saying that one night, she also played in a band. One night some guy just came up to her and was like, how much for your underwear? And I think she sold it for like $150. I was like,
Weird.
wow.
Well,
But yeah.
but
So
let me ask you this then. So when we're determining what is a creep and what's creepy, consent is a big part of that. If someone approaches someone and says like, can I buy your underwear? I'll give you $150. And they say like, yeah, sure. And they sell it. Like, did anything creepy happen?
I think that's more of a transaction. I
Mhm.
mean, you can think it's creepy, but as long as the person A asked, and you can always say no.
Mhm. And ask in a way that's not like putting you in a corner and like getting you all alone.
Right.
Like, mhm.
Yeah, no, I think that's more, yeah, transactional.
Yeah, I guess getting a job as a mover and creeping around and looking at women's underwear, certainly creepy.
That's creepy.
Joining someone's like OnlyFans and buying them, or like finding some way to approach someone and buy them, maybe a little weird and kinky, but not necessarily creepy by the definition of this show.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, especially because, like you said, consent is everything when it comes to creepiness.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you don't want to sell your underwear, just simply say no, and they should move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if they then challenge that, then that is creepy.
That's right. Then we're into creepy territory.
Can I buy your underwear? Yes. Not creepy. Can I buy your underwear? No. Please sell me your underwear.
Creepy.
Creepy. Okay. Let's move on.
We're covering the important topics here.
So you remember Lisa? She sent us a message last week. It got cut off. She called in this week and she was able to freak us out with the rest of it. In her messages, I kind of got the impression that she felt bad that like my thing screwed up and her message got deleted, because she sent me a second one. She said, since I messed up my last message, I wanted to send you another one. So I don't know if she sent us this story as a way to like apologize or what she meant by that. But I just want to be clear. The problem is on my end. When you go to nighttimepodcast.com and click on contact, there's a little app you can click record and record a message, and that just sends it to me for use on this show. Every so often, like, one out of every 150 messages, there's a problem, and it's never on that person's end. It's just that stupid app screws up. So no hard feelings, Lisa. But here's her second story that she shared. And it's a doozy. It involves a naked neighbor.
Hey, Jordan. This is Lisa again. This is something I remembered recently. When I was in my 20s, I had this big, cheap apartment in an old, crumbling building in Chicago. And my landlord was a real eccentric guy. When I moved in, he told me, I always put the single girls in the apartments next to the single guys so they'll get together. And I thought that was an odd thing to say. But anyway, not too long after I moved in, I met my neighbor, who was a single guy across the hall from me. His name was Nate, and he was a bodybuilder, a really muscly guy. And I just had this really brief conversation with him where we introduced ourselves. He told me that he works out in his apartment and plays loud music all the time. And if it's too loud, anytime I can come over and tell him to turn it down. And that was pretty much it. I didn't say anything similar, like come over or, anything. I wasn't super friendly. My impression of him was he wasn't really a guy that I would want to hang out with, or, just he didn't seem like the sharpest pencil in the box, but nice. But anyway, after that, I didn't see him again until one day there was a knock on my door, and it was like on a weekend. Definitely not when I was getting ready for work. I had to go out. I had plans to go out. later. So maybe it was like a Saturday afternoon, something like that. But anyway, I open the door and there's my neighbor Nate, completely naked. And he just has this really small, I mean, tiny towel, precariously draped. And he's like barely holding it together with one hand. And he's kind of posing. He's like not even in the hallway. He's like in my door frame with his arm up on the door frame. And he says, "Can I come in?" And I was like shocked, I'm like looking him up and down and I'm like, "Why?" And he said, can I take a shower? Can I use your shower?" And I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "Oh, my shower's not working. I don't have enough hot water. Can I use your shower?" And I said, "No." I was like, "No, I don't want to let you in my apartment, you know? And, and I felt like I had to make up an excuse. So I said, now is not a good time. I'm about to leave. I have to be somewhere. I'm about to go out the door. And I just said, I really have to go. And I like kind of shoot him away and close the door. And, my hot water was working just fine. So I don't know what was going on. But after he left, I never talked to him again. But there was one time when he was playing music. And it was really loud, and it kept getting louder and louder and louder until my floor was shaking in my apartment. But I thought, I'm not going over there. I'm just going to ignore this. So I never talked to him again. I don't know why he thought it was okay to come over naked to my apartment. Um, and so I don't know if he was just clueless or if the landlord kind of put some idea in his head about me. But anyway, that is my story. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Lisa moved into a hornet's nest there. That landlord is a creep. And then Nate, the musclehead neighbor, is certainly a creep.
Imagine being that bold and like thinking that's a good idea.
Yeah, like
that
what
would work.
The confidence you must have to be like, I'm just going to go over there with nothing but a towel.
Confidence or delusion, either or.
Oh yeah, like there's a crest. Like you get it so confident that you just fall off the other side, and that's delusion. He's
delusion.
He's just flailing and rolling down the hill of delusion to show up without, like, if you were going to make a move like that, you would have had to receive so many like kind of like positive flags from her that she's interested in you to make that move, for that to be the dice you roll. Oh, good God.
That is a man that has watched way too much porn and thinks it's reality.
Yes, that's it.
That does not work.
He's been in that room for the last 6 months, just waiting for the landlord to deliver him his next meal, watching porn. And he's like, this is how it works.
And then he tries to lure her over with loud music.
Yeah, it was definitely like Barry White or some kind of like R&B just blasting it. She shows up to complain, and he has wine. Like, well, it's the
what
lights
a coincidence. Yeah.
God, what an awful story. Lisa, I'm sorry for you. You've had a difficult life with these creeps.
Yeah, the landlord. It could have been both too. She could have had a delusional neighbor to start, and then the landlord didn't help.
Yeah, like, or it could have
and
just.
What's this landlord doing? Like, just do what you're meant to do.
Yeah, you don't need to match. You're not matching them up, like, and you don't want to. And who would want to date someone that live like? Oh, there's this really nice single guy in the same apartment building next door to me, or 2 doors down, or whatever. Like, that's not how you want to meet someone.
See, I thought this was going to lead into like the landlord peeping or something.
Yeah,
which is still plausible, but not confirmed.
Oh man, there could be a lot of weird stuff going on in that building.
Hopefully it doesn't exist anymore. She said it was crumbling then, so hopefully it's just kind of been demolished and crumbled.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be kind of the angle. It was going to be involving the landlord doing something creepy. But what threw me off, I think, even more, and I know it threw you off as well, is when Nate comes over to her house. She describes him as being naked, and she's like, and he had this really, really small, and I saw you like collapse, and then she goes, towel. Did that trick you?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's just what I was thinking.
Right. We're on the same page. Oh God.
So this next one, I got to just jump right into it. This next one, I've been waiting all night. Actually, I've been waiting for 3 weeks to play this for you. But the anticipation has been building up all day. It's been building up this whole episode. I'm falling over my words because it's finally happened. Somebody has sent in a creep encounter story accusing someone of being a creep. But I don't know. I dare say we're hearing the creep's point of view on this one.
Oh, I'm so excited. Okay.
Okay, buckle your seatbelt. If you have one there, buckle it. Because people are going to accuse me of setting this up. This is real. Listen to this.
Well, I definitely like your show. I don't know if you'll think this is creepy. Well, I thought it was creepy when it actually happened. Driving a truck across the country, I actually had a truck stop, and it was late at night, and I was shopping for some food to get. I was in a probably park. I can't remember. But I'm shopping, and I have a little cart, and have a person come up to me and ask me, "Oh, hey, where are you going?" Oh, so I told him. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, please tell me you don't want to ride. And he looks like he's dressed to go on a ride somewhere, which he has a backpack, etc. Like one of those old military backpacks. And he goes, "Oh, good. Can I get a ride?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Fine. Let me move the 3 dead hookers out of the back. No problem." He turned around and walked away, and I said it really loud, too. So the people in the truck stop, when I went up to the counter, "Do you really have 3 dead hookers in the back of the truck?" No. I just can't stand people asking me for rides. That happens a lot with trucking, depending on the truck stops you go to. And the lot lizards, oh yeah, there's a lot of nonsense in trucking. But I enjoy your podcast. I enjoy what you do, and I only heard one, but the rest are probably pretty good.
A simple no wouldn't have sufficed.
Can you believe that?
I'm a little blown away. Like, so he sounds like a seasoned trucker.
Yeah.
This cannot be the first hitchhiker to ask for a ride, obviously, because he says he hates giving rides to people. Fine. Again, a simple no would have sufficed.
Yeah.
Like,
in his mind, I'm wondering in his mind where the creep encounter was. Was it that somebody wanted a ride?
This is where I'm confused too. Sounded like a nice guy.
It sounded like just someone who's not even really like a player in this story. Just like a random person asked for a drive.
Yeah, someone traveling alone, obviously.
Who looked like they needed a drive, asked for a drive.
And I'm sure he's asked before and, people have said no. And then he goes on his merry way.
But what he did was in a public place, very loudly when someone asked for a drive, he said, "Yes, I'll give you a drive. I just need to," I won't even say it because it's so awful. And he said it so much that other people heard and then kind of asked him about it. Well, according to him, they asked. I wonder if they were like, "We're calling the police."
Right? Yeah, that's just so left field.
Completely nuts. And then what else is left field is what about the compliment at the end? "I like your show." I only heard one.
I've only listened to one.
I'm sure the rest of them are great. I have close to 350 episodes.
And, well, you know what? They're all great.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's right.
It's bizarre, right? Like I was listening to that thinking like, is someone putting me on here? But I don't think there's anyone creative enough with a good enough voice acting to like hit that.
Yeah, it's almost too bizarre to be false. It's like, what?
Yeah, I appreciate he's a listener of the show. I appreciate having him listen. I just think in that story, if he wanted to share a creep story, there must be a story he could share that there must be some other story he has that at least puts a better balance on like which one is the creep. I don't think anyone would hear that story and think the hitchhiker is the creep.
No. And like he's a trucker. He's come across a lot of different colorful people over in his day, I imagine. There has to be someone better. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I hope he
well,
doesn't use that again.
yeah, don't do that,
Like
sir.
you're going to be put on a list. You're going to be red flagged pretty soon.
Yeah, people are going to think you're a creep.
Yeah.
I
Like
wish
so when your vehicle starts getting searched often, don't be surprised.
I just in a perfect like well not in a perfect world, but I can imagine like if this situation of us talking right now was a movie and we played that voice memo, I would then follow it up with this random guy be like, I was hitchhiking. It was 15 years ago and I just went up to this guy who seemed nice enough and asked him for a drive. And he said, "Yeah, I just got to move, you know, like that would fit the show better."
I hope by some grace of God or whoever, I hope the hitchhiker is a listener and we get his side.
I
You
will
know,
yeah.
Lisa came back with her second half of the story, and you never know. I hope this episode makes it to that guy, the hitchhiker.
Please, if anyone knows anyone who's hitchhiked, just ask them.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to find this guy.
That description matches like every hitchhiker ever.
Yeah, he had like a military style backpack. Of course,
Yeah.
And I
Oh.
can picture it because it's the most common.
too.
There's like the flap, and it's like a green,
I was gonna say it's that nice green color I like.
and it's kind of canvasy, like it's the
Yeah.
canvas style. Yeah, I know the backpacks. We'll never find it. Maybe we'll find this guy. I'm never gonna give up searching.
It's a small world. You never know.
That is all the creep stories I have, Madelayne.
Oh, I'm glad we ended on that one. That was a good palate cleanser, as you would
Perfect.
put it. Yeah,
Chef's
the
kiss.
cherry on top.
I say that is all the creep encounters. That is all the creep encounters we have time for tonight. I still have 15 of them we got to get to, but we're always looking for more. If anyone's listening to this, and well, for one of you, the hitchhiker, we got to get you. We got to hear from you. But anyone else who's listening to this that has a story that they think would fit this show, this series, go to nighttimepodcast.com, click on contact, and send Madelayne and I a voice memo, anonymously or not. We'd love to hear from you. Madelayne, before we wrap it up, what's your review of the stories we heard tonight? I'm going to recap. We heard from Krista. She had the creepy movers and the man's cash and prizes in the pool. We had Norm from Vegas, who got touched on the shoulder. The Tex-Mex threesome, Jennifer in Scotland's hair. We had Lisa's story of the breath from the tracheotomy, and Lisa's story from the naked neighbor. And then we had Jason's creepy funeral home Nazi museum.
Oh, this episode was kind of all over the place. We got a little bit of everything.
I like that,
with this
though.
one. Me too. But as always, and I said this to Krista when she was texting me last week, these stories just make me so grateful that I've got a couple creep stories, but compared to some of the stuff we hear here,
Ooh.
they are nothing. And I am so privileged and lucky to have somehow avoided, or maybe I'm just blissfully ignorant and live with my head in the clouds and don't notice it. I don't know. Regardless, I'm always very grateful that these things have never happened to me.
But it's so, they haven't happened to you, but things like them have. They're so common. It's happened to everyone. I think that's what it reminds me, is that like this stuff is just everywhere out there. And the difference from in like the creep touching your hair to the creep grabbing you is and dragging you away is such a fine line. And I think it's a reminder for me to just like watch what you're doing and be careful of who's around you, because it could be anyone. It could be a customer at your store. It could be the mover that you hired. It could be some random man in the pool near your kid, or it could be a guy driving a truck at a truck stop that you want to ride from. They're everywhere.
You're right. You have to be hyper vigilant. As my dad would say, trust no one.
That's what Fox Mulder says too from X-Files. It's kind of like the motto.
Amazing. Okay. I don't know if that's where he got it. I don't know if my dad's an X-Files fan, but
No, it's not the type.
I don't know. He surprises me sometimes, though. Maybe I'll ask him.
Okay. Well, let's wrap this up, Madelayne. This has been a blast.
This is, as always, super fun for us.
I enjoy it. I'm going to admit it now. This is fun.
Oh, the cringe is just too much.
This is my idea of a good time.
Same here.
I am a creep.
I'm in my house. We're having fun. This is great. I didn't have to leave. This is perfect for me.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me again, Madelayne.
Oh, anytime.
I want to thank you for joining Madelayne, Klein, and I for this episode of Nighttime. Now, I'm going to start wrapping things up here, but before we part, I have some thanks. First of all, a huge and sincere thanks to everyone who took their time to share their creep encounters with us. These stories serve as a great reminder to keep our eyes open and our wits about us. And to any other listeners out there who think they may have a story to share, I'm going to do a lot more episodes in this series, and I'd love to include your story. You can share it with Madelayne and I at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. If you got something to share, go to my site now. The voice recorder is easy to use, and if you make any mistakes or misspeak, I'll edit it before it goes to air, and I'll make sure you sound your best. Madelayne and I hope to hear from you. Now next, I want to give a big thanks to Monty Datta, who contributes the music for this episode, and to LJ from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides my intro and outro voiceovers. And then lastly, but most importantly, I have a massive thanks to every one of you who listens to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. Now on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers of the premium feed, Leslie, Grumpy Chat, and Bronwyn. I appreciate you. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs only a couple dollars a month and funds the creation of the show while giving you access to an ad-free, 2-day early release and access to a full back catalog of episodes. And if you don't want to go premium or can't go premium, you can still help the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting like-minded friends know what we're doing here. If anyone listening has any story ideas, wants to give feedback or an opinion on the show, or submit a question or comment to be aired in an upcoming episode, you can do all that and more at nighttimepodcast.com. I hope to hear from you. But until then, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.
I open the door and there's my neighbor Nate, completely naked. And he just has this really small, tiny towel.
I enjoy your podcast, and I only heard one, but the rest are probably pretty good.